Welcome back to another episode of Elevated Dialogue here on the Unkle Junior Network. I go by the name of the Unkle Junior, and with me today are this panel of fine young gentlemen and Antoine. So, with it, I'm just playing Antoine. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you being here tonight. We have Mr. Victor Viziant. He's Mr. Accountable Masculinity. He has some books that he has written. If you feel free, you want to go out and purchase them, the link will be in the description. Mr. Antoine, the painter, the other artist, Christopher. He had a new picture up there behind us today I have never seen before. So maybe he'll share something with us about it today, or maybe we'll wait until after the show. Depend on how long Antoine want to talk about it. Um, and ladies and gentlemen, we have none other than the only mindset coach you will ever need, Mr. Dwayne Dwyer. And right beside him, across the table with Christopher McClellan, he's still here. He's the angry guy who is learning. And like I said, he's here. He's working through some technical issues. They're having some storms where he's at. So, with that being said, gentlemen, how are you guys been this week? It's Wednesday, it's hump day. How has it been up to this far? I know Coach already said he was busy. We chatted a little bit earlier, but other than that, man, how's everybody doing?
Right. Pretty good.
Good.
I am strong.
Strong. I like that. We've been hearing that a lot, man. What about you is strong right now? You know what I mean? Like, what is Christopher doing in his life right now to where when he comes on here every week, his word is strong? Because I won't
Lifting
say that.
heavy shit.
Lifting heavy stuff. Okay. I like it.
That, along with the discipline that comes with getting up to torture my body like I do, knowing that
Mm,
the result is going to be what I need it to be. Like I said, I want to be as strong as possible for as long as possible. And it takes a lot to get up as early as I do what I do, and then go on and have a productive day. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of people don't have that. And the more I do it, the easier it gets,
do you
and
think
the
that trans?
stronger I
Oh,
get.
do you think that translate well? You think that translate well over into your personal life?
Absolutely, man. If I can get up at 5 in the morning and torture myself 5 days a week, you understand what I'm saying? If I really put my mind to it, I could really do what I want. The thing is, I used to be one of those guys that wanted microwave results. I wanted it to happen right now. I actually had to have somebody sit me down and say, "Hey, take your time. This is going to take time. You can't rush into this, especially since I'm recovering from an injury. You can't rush into this." So I started taking my time.
I like it. You ain't 17 no more either.
True that.
Hey, with that being said, man, we may even talk about some of those things tonight as we talking about becoming a success. And we're talking about 9 skills every man should develop. Now, whether or not you agree with these 9 different skills or not, they're just 9. They're not the only 9. Maybe you agree with them, maybe you don't, maybe you'll take something from it, maybe you won't. At the end of the day, you can add to a takeaway this from this list. This is not the be all, say all list that men need, but I think that as we go through them, you will see that these probably are some good skills that men could use in their life. And what we're going to do today, we're just going to kind of talk about them a little bit, break them down a little bit, maybe share some of our experiences with you as we continue on with this elevated dialogue today. With that being said, shout out to the chat. I appreciate you all being here today. Shout out to anybody who is watching today, whether you're on Elevated Dialogue, the Uncle Junior platform, or any other different platform, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, VIX platform, whoever else is over there. There are other people streaming from different platforms. So feel free to chime in, be part of the conversation, be part of the chat as we roll on. And with that being said, gentlemen, are there any skills just off the top of your head, right now, before we get into it, that you think that every man, not that every man, but that most men could use or that they should develop as they start trending forward in life? And it could be anything.
I am going to say the skill of discernment.
And you know we gonna want to know a little bit more about that.
To me, that means learning who you can listen to, who you can take stuff from, and who's just talking just to talk, who's just yapping with no results, who is actually doing what you want to do or something along the lines of what you want to do that can give you something tangible. A lot of people just yap. Also, learning who actually wants you to do good and progress, learning the difference between that and between somebody who wants you to do good but not better than them. You understand what I'm saying? Um and also learning when to shut up. That's a skill a lot of and that's the ego. You can't learn and talk at the same time and you don't know everything. Like I'm at the point right now where I know enough to learn. I've learned enough to know that I need to know more and I need to learn more. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why I shut up a lot when I'm on here and I chime in every now and then, but most of the time I'm listening to y'all because I know when to shut up.
I like that one. You got something, Antoine? You unmuted.
I'm thinking. No, I got a few in my head, but I want to go to somebody else. I want to narrow it down to.
All right.
Um,
We're gonna go through nine of them, so I got you. So I think one thing for me is the ability, I think one skill men should develop is their it kind of goes along with Chris's point is discernment is the ability to choose friends or your wolf pack or know who should be and shouldn't be in your life. As we grow up, a lot of times what is told to us is that, family first, and that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. However, if you move around and you travel, we all come across other people in our life, whether it be at the job, whether it be at the gym, whether it be at an event or something like that, and we decide that, hey, we've met someone and we want to bring this person into our life, because initially we may have hit it off, we may have vibed or something like that. And I think that sometimes there's a place, I think we have to be careful about, where we are in our life and who we allow to come into our life. I mentioned, back, a few months ago about a podcast, how I was interacting with people who were, I thought were good, but what they were doing, they were they were sapping all of my energy because they was coming into my life and they were just talking and yapping, but they wasn't adding any value. And next thing you know, it's an hour later and they talked the entire time and I got nothing out of it. And I understand that sometimes we have to be that for someone. However, every time we talk, it shouldn't be like that. So I was finding myself drained sometimes. So I had to learn how to, hey, distance myself from that person for a little bit, you know what I mean, and get myself together. So I think the ability, learning how, to develop the ability to choose friends and to choose people to be in your life is definitely something that men should learn how to develop.
interpersonal skills. Um, going back to somebody mentioned knowing when to shut up. That goes back into when I talked about like my accountable masculinity laws. It's like decentralized leadership, knowing when to lead and when to follow. Knowing when to you know be of service and then knowing when to get out of the way so people can help you too. Um, I think we miss a lot of opportunities sometimes by trying to do too much, you know, and being and over obligating, over leveraging yourself. I think definitely risk management is in there too, and critical thinking has definitely got to be part of it as that exercise as well. So trying to think fourth dimensionally or as many dimensions that make sense to think in, because it's not just link times with times height. It's about time, money, and the best use of your energy and effort. I think I and to add on to what Vic said,
I like to say, learn your strengths and your weaknesses. Learn your strengths and your weaknesses, and learn how to carry on a conversation. And when I say carry on a conversation, carry the conversation. Make sure there's no awkward moments in it. That's very important when you're communicating, and recognize who you're communicating with. Put your ego aside and acknowledge what that person in front of you knows, which is something you don't know. So put your ego aside, because you obviously want to get ahead, and he obviously has something you want and some sort form of information you need. And you have to know how to communicate that with him to get it out of him, because you have to make it, put him in the position to want to tell you. That's very important, I think.
I would say, again, loving all the comments that were made, I would say that learning how to actually think, again, throughout your entire life, you were taught what to think, which pretty much made you a linear thinker. When you learn how to think, then you get to the point where you can become a lateral and linear thinker. Therefore, obstacles really aren't obstacles. So, learning the art of thinking, learning how to exercise the ability to think in every given situation so that when you speak, you have something to say, not just speak because you want to have something to say. Um, Add value to people because of the power of thought. Learn to think in every given situation so that you can actually uplift people and esteem them higher than yourself. I can go on and on and on about the power of thought, but just learning how to think, I think that's important.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that has been said up in here. And I don't think that any of those are on this actual line. So I'm glad that we went here first before we dug into these nine, because again, these are not my nine. These came off of an article that I saw online, and the link for that article will be in the description as well if someone wants to go and check it out. Again, it's not my article. But so far, thank you to everybody who's been active in the chat. In the chat, Kavanaugh had a lot of good, Coach just mentioned it. He had a lot of good points and a lot of good skills that men need to develop. With that being said, the first one on the list for today is that's that wrong button. All right, the first one on the day is when it comes to the nine skills that every man should develop. The first one is have a defensive mindset. So when I just looked at this right across the top, um, I didn't understand it, and then I kind of read the description a little bit, and I got a little bit better idea. But I kind of came up with my own kind of thought process about this. So, a lot of times people say, you're having a conversation with someone and someone says, don't be defensive. Well, that's not what I see from this. What I see from this is having a defensive mindset is that I need to surround myself or build a fort around my life or something like that. And then I need to defend it. I can't allow people to come into my life that's going to mess with my mindset or that's going to break me down or try to, I mean, that's not going to happen, but try to um come in my life and cause chaos. So I have to be able to be defensive. So what I mean by that is, again, is kind of like in the army, like you build a fort, then you kind of defend it. So I built my life and now I'm trying to defend it, not in the sense where I'm on the attack mode, trying to defend it all the time, but at the same time, learning certain skills and stuff like that. So when I am challenged or something like that, I am able to defend myself and stand on my principles. But I am interested to hear what everybody else has to say about what they think this means when it comes to a skill that men should develop and how a defensive mindset comes into play with this.
Protect your peace. The things that's gonna put you in a, I guess, in a defensive situation are gonna be relative to what cultivate around you. If if you're in a lot of negative spaces, then expect corresponding energy to go with that. You know, um, I think that's pretty much it for me. It's be aware that things can happen, but don't be oblivious to it. It's a degree of situational awareness, I think.
I'm gonna give a different take. So when I see have a defensive mindset, right? It could be taken as this way too. If somebody's having a conversation with you, and they're explaining something to you, and they're going into detail what you need to do, you should have. When I say defensive mindset, you should have the right answer to respond to him, so he gives you more information. You should be listening to really listen, but have the right words to say back, so he's able to tell you more of what you need to hear. So it shows him that you're listening, and at the same time, it shows him that you're able to absorb what he's saying. You're not just, oh yeah, 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 you're right, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, have actually ask the right questions when he finishes telling you something. So it shows you have some active listening going on.
That's
You're
what
not
that is.
not just there. You got some active listening going on. You're asking the questions to what he just said. You didn't forget what he just said. It's like reading a book. You can read a page, but it doesn't mean you understand what the page said, right? That's how a defensive mindset comes in handy when in business, I'd say.
To me, this just sounds like standing on your square. To be real, this is just standing on your square. A man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. Having a defensive mindset doesn't always mean combative. And that's another thing that we must understand. Having a defensive mind means I have something that I have been thinking for a while. You have something that you have been thinking for a while, but you have knowledge that I need. But there might be a shot that I can give you some too. You understand what I'm saying? That's how I see it.
I'm struggling. Um,
Really?
well,
Yeah, I'm
because,
saying the same thing.
I
because
have
of the,
in all of my time being on this platform, I have never heard you utter those words.
well, it's a reason for it. I'm trying to digest everything that everybody's saying, and I don't disagree with anything that you're saying, but I don't necessarily see what you're saying as being defensive either. I believe wholeheartedly because I have these conversations with organizations based upon like one of the biggest things during COVID-19 was burnout. And in the midst of talking about burnout, one of the things that we talked about and I shared with them is that when burnout happens, it's too late to actually plan for it. So you have to plan for burnout before it actually happens. Therefore, burnout is actually part of the operational plan. So you work in burnout during day to day operations so that people don't burn out. I believe the same thing exists when it comes down to defenses. So the army, and I think Uncle Junior mentioned the army, right? So the army actually prepares for war, not to go to war, to prevent other people from going to war. So understanding what needs to happen does not necessarily mean that it has to happen. So therefore, within the scope of your everyday life, you set the conditions for you to be successful. Success moves the opposition out the way. When opposition presents itself, it's not necessarily something I need to defend against, it's something I need to attack. And that thing, when I attack it and overcome the obstacle, there's a lesson that is learned on the other side. So that's why I'm saying I'm struggling with this term because defense means that I sit back and wait. And if I'm sitting back and wait and I'm watching how you're maneuvering against me, then I am reacting to what you're doing. Therefore, I don't necessarily believe in reacting to anything. I believe in planning and then having contingencies along the way. Therefore, I don't necessarily have to react to what you do. I respond within the scope of a plan. That's why I say I'm struggling with this term. But I don't agree with anything you guys said, though.
And that's why I just said situational awareness, knowing things that can happen, but just being aware of it. You know what I'm saying? That not taking anything off the table. It's not going out scared into the world, but just being aware that you can, be in a situation where your life might be on the line. You might need to react before you even understand what's going on. And a lot of people just don't have that instinct, or it's not as cultivated as well, because the instinct to react when you are in a fight or flight situation, that's a natural thing. But the defensive mindset means like I'd imagine like if somebody was a bodyguard or personal protection industry, that they would have a way different, um, like definition or context for what we're talking about, you know. And then in another situation, maybe a different three-letter agency might have a completely different mindset about the same thing. So I think it's more so just tied to general situational awareness. I just think it's a fancy way of looking at it.
But in that sense, I don't think they would have a different a different
Yeah,
interpretation. They
yeah,
would have a protective mindset,
exactly. Yeah.
being an asset. So that's different. That means they're still
Defend
on
and
that.
protect are two different things. Because like you can go on the offensive to protect something
Absolutely.
versus just sitting back waiting for it to come to you. So I think it's like again situational awareness, and then picking like how you respond. Sometimes no response is the best response. Sometimes it's just a bluff. Sometimes you can tell it's a bluff. Um, Misinformation gets people out of their chair sometimes too quickly, and makes people play their hands as well. I think defensive mindset is about a poker face, not letting them see you sweat. You can leave it at that too.
I think also I pulled this clip, I mean this point from the bullet from the article itself, and it says a defensive mindset starts with always being observant, ready for any challenge that you may face. So I think this kind of goes back to what Coach was talking about, with the army, and I look at like when we was in Iraq and we had people that used to go out on the perimeter on the points at nighttime where they were in a defensive posture or defensive stance. They were there to defend the post. So but at the same time there was a plan that was already put into place that if this happens, this is what you do. So it's not there to just being defensive. I don't know how to put it, but that's kind of how I looked at it, as an analogy of just being ready for something, and just always being like observant, being vigilant, being aware of your surroundings, what I mean, like Vic said, and different things like that. So I kind of
It
agree with everybody. I think we all kind of talked about it and kind of got a good understanding of it based off of all of our different um,
it, it
talking
sounds
points.
to me like
Weapon
this
status.
is keeping your head on a swivel, but having contingencies.
Hmm.
Weapon status. Green, amber, mag in, mag out. Just depends on where you are.
You
Like
just
if
have to
you,
know. Yeah, yeah. You
yeah,
have to. It's like you have to know when to show your cards. And what card you're showing at the time you need to show it. It's a
Go
balancing
ahead,
act.
Coach.
No, I think Antoine was kind of going the same direction that I was going. I was going to give an example. So in cyberspace, we all operate computers, but we don't necessarily know what happens in cyberspace when you start talking about security and things of that nature. You have offensive cyber operations, you have defensive cyber operations as well, right? But defensive cyber operations is broken down into two phases. You have what is called defensive cyber operation, and you have defensive response action as well. So even though you'll have defensive cyber operation, and this is the gray space and everything that comes here, I don't attack everything that probes, because some of the things probe, I am collecting information off of it. So I let them attack. I let them probe sometimes so I can understand what they're doing over there. And then once they get to a certain point, there's an automatic response answer that happens that attacks and destroy this entity, or just hit it just enough for it to go back where it came from. And I think that's what I'm talking. I think that kind of gets after what I'm talking about and what Antoine just said. You don't have to respond to anything. Like I think Liz put something. She mentioned a clap back. Baby, I ain't clapping back at nothing. You can say whatever it is you got to say. I know that my ignore button is strong. You see what I'm saying? I can let you probe all day long. I don't have to respond to that. And I think it takes a level of thinking to get a person to that point so that they can realize that I don't need to participate in those, and I hate to use this term, and this is not an offense to anyone, but I don't need to participate in those low levels of thought exchange.
unhealthy
And with that
competition.
being said, yeah,
Wait,
and
who's
with
that?
that being said, shout out to Liz. Hey, I appreciate the
Oh,
comments. What I'm gonna
oh.
do, we're gonna hit it right now. So, how do you define a defensive mindset when someone shares something and the other person immediately begins to clap back in self-defense?
That's the response action, the
It,
clap.
it's a unhealthy. You got to recognize if it's a healthy competition or not, and because you still got to compete for somebody's understanding to get people to buy in. But if they are unreasonable and you're going to waste more time trying to repeat yourself and get them to see it and get them to execute, follow up, and provide feedback, then you just got a boundary where you just can't deal with that person. Now you got a different decision to make, and depending on where you work, then they may decide, like, okay, we'll relocate this person where they're more effective at, and then after they have whatever response, defensive responses, logged and they document it or whatever, and you're not able to be worked with, they're gonna get you out of there, right? So there's a level of uh, I guess benchmarks and reference points that have to be set in place so you know what to do next. Break glass in case of emergencies type of situation. So protocol.
Am
One
I
more
am I
person,
understanding
one
that
more
question?
person hit this, and then we're going to move on.
Am I understanding that question that she's sharing something about to someone about their behavior or something about them, or is she sharing that something personal to them and they clap back at what she said?
Something
I'm assuming
period.
With the
it's
information
something that
there.
affects
It's,
them,
Just
right?
just just something period. Just
it's
something,
just a
just
conflict.
anything. Just having a conversation with somebody that conflicts with what they say, and they take what you say as an attack instead
Okay,
of
okay.
you
So that's what
actually
okay.
saying. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It could
right,
So if
it
you,
could
yeah.
literally be anything.
So if
right.
you
But
come to me and you say, "Hey Garfield, hey blah blah blah, hey I'm thinking about voting for Trump this year," and I immediately like, "Oh, wait, no, how you gonna vote for him?" I'm immediately clapping back. So what she's asking, how do you define a defensive mindset? Once I started clapping back at you.
the only
Oh,
winning
okay.
move is not to play. You walk away.
It's
Defensive
like,
mindset is a lack of open mindedness too.
and you got to know who you're sharing what you're saying with. You got to know that person too, right? Because I always tell everybody, don't tell everybody your dreams, because the next thing you know, they're drowning them for you. So you gotta pick your battles on that one. You can't share everything with everyone.
I got it. I got it. Sounds good to me. Hey, Jim, and with that being said, the next talking point or the next skill is the ability to listen to others. And I know Chris already talked about it, and I think someone else had already talked about it too. But this is one that I firmly believe that men need to develop. Chris talked about it, the ability to sometimes just shut up, just not say anything. You know what I mean? And just listen. You know what I mean? I think, I talk to, when I'm teaching, giving lessons in class, and kids are talking and stuff like this. And I'm just like, how many ears y'all got? And they were like, two. I was like, how many mouths you got? They were like, one. I said, the person or whoever created you probably thought that it was more important that you listen than it is to talk. And they'd be like, sometimes they don't know what to say. Their mind be blown sometimes, because they're K-5 students, So just with that being said, what do y'all think? Um, the ability to listen to others. What do y'all
Yeah,
think about that?
I got a good one for that. Okay, so if you're having a conversation with someone that's a professional at what they do, and you're trying to get the insight on what they know, you have to go in with your ego aside, because you don't know. You can't pretend you don't know. You don't know, and you can't pretend that you know. Right? It's like a sponge. You have to wet them so they squeeze out the water, and you just absorb it like a sponge. Right? So you have to listen and ask. That's why I was saying you have to ask the right question. Okay, you got the ability to listen is to really hear what they're saying and ask the question at the right time. You have to know not to cut them off and let them finish their entire sentence. It's very important, especially when they have the knowledge of something that you want a piece of, because they have it for a reason. You don't have it, you want it. It's like when they tell you a joke, even though you heard the joke already, you still let them finish, so you create the moment of laughter so they're able to tell you more. Let them finish the joke. That's listening. That's how I see it.
Jordan Peterson's 12 Roof to Life and Antidote to Chaos, rule number 4 or 5. Always listen to people as if they have something that they could possibly teach you. You are not always right. And to keep it real, you know enough to know that you don't know enough. It is relatively simple, but a lot of people, and I said this earlier, a lot of people get in their egos because they have to be right, and they have to compete, and they have to get their point across no matter how you convey what you're saying. And this also goes back to what Liz was saying. A lot of times when you say something, they view it as an attack because you're attacking what they believe and you think that they're automatically wrong instead of saying, you're not wrong, but there are a billion other perspectives that you can have. Maybe you can take something from me and I can take something from you and we can progress forward. I'm not trying to compete with no, the only person that I am trying to be better than is the person that I look at in the mirror every morning at 5 a.m. That is it. I'm pissed off all the time and I'm trying to learn. So that is where I am. And in order for you to get there, you have to remove the ego. A lot of people think they just know it all. A lot of people think they know it all and don't have any tangible results to back up their know it all. Those are the people that you really have to watch out for. People giving you advice about something they have absolutely no clue about.
Unearned arrogance. Um, like what Chris was just talking about. Some people are arrogant with no resume. just
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 yapping.
just yapping and lying to people, just lying them, you know what I'm saying, all the way out of their situation. But I typed up a couple words on the ability to listen to others, be receptive and coachable, know your audience. Sometimes you need to be in the audience. You look for opportunities to learn, respect the information, and always consider the veracity of the source. Like it can come from, like some weak unpreferred news channel or something like that. But if it's the only place talking about it and it's not getting discussed anywhere else, you might want to vet and look for some other peripheral information and see how credible the narrative is, because it's really easy to create a narrative. It don't take much, like bad news travels very fast, very far, and it doesn't get better with time. So listening to others can save you from a lot of situations where it may damage your credibility, because you have to respect how other people see you objectively. If you can have a perfect plan, but people aren't perfect, situations aren't perfect, but the most important thing is that you have perfect intentions and it's not rooted in satisfying an unhealthy outcome for an ego driven situation.
So yeah, um, I look at this in a not totally different. I'm agreeing with everything that was said. Um, but I look at this from a perspective of I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've achieved in life. I don't care how much money you got in the bank. I don't care. You can have more degrees than the thermometer, and you can have more experience than John Rambo. You still need to learn how to shut up and listen. That's just what it is. I think too many times I think too many times what you find is that people think they overvalue the words that come out of their mouth and undervalue the words that other people say. That's what I really do believe. I think a lot of times we believe that what we're saying is the showstopper, the mic dropper. It's called open the doors of the church. It's time to. You see what I'm saying? I really do believe that. I am completely transparent when I say this. Everybody, I don't care who you are wrong about something and you are right about something. There is no absolute in anybody, period. If we think from that perspective, then it doesn't matter. Like, say, for an example, Antoine is an artist. I know absolutely nothing about artists. Artist work, not my thing. I know what they look like. They look good. I like them. Keep doing what you do, brother. I love it. But here's the deal. If we're in a conversation, I bet you a dime to a dollar, I can ask Antoine a question. And based upon that one question that I ask him, he will expound on that question and go into a different level of conversation than anyone else that Hugh, who was actually with him, would have thought about anyway. So that's kind of like my point. I think too many times we overvalue the words that we speak and we undervalue another person's ability to formulate a complete sentence or thought. I think everybody at some point in time need to take a step back, take a chill pill, process the entirety of what another person is saying, and then ask a question to ensure that you understand exactly what they're saying so that when you respond, you're responding directly to the words, not how you feel about the words.
This also
There's
goes
I'm
into
sorry.
the discernment that Chris talked about earlier too, and this can be detrimental to people. Like, um, I don't know how many times in the military, actually, I'm gonna take the military out. I'll use my own personal life. I tell my sons things all the time. They don't listen. Actually, you know what? They do listen. They just may not apply. So with that being said, I'm gonna leave them alone. I'm gonna go back to my military. So I think a lot of times because then I had to do some accountability because it's not all of them. They just don't always listen, even though I may share things. But I think
That was
sometimes
a
in the
defensive
military, we've had
response.
people, yeah, in the military, we've had people who just plain old didn't listen. And one of those things is every single Friday in the military, you're going to have a formation at the end of the day, and you're going to have a safety brief. And your boss or somebody of authority is going to stand up in charge and they're going to say, don't drink and drive, have protected sex if you're going to have it, don't do nothing stupid. If you're going to delete yourself, wait till next week when someone else is on duty or whatever like that. So good, bad, or indifferent, these are the conversations that we had. Every single freaking Friday, somebody was not paying attention and somebody wasn't listening. And eventually, every single Friday, and somewhere in the army, somebody got somebody pregnant, somebody got an STD, somebody may have gotten a DUI, all these different things. Everything that we were briefed about on Friday happened somewhere in the army or in the military on Friday night, Saturday, or Sunday. Happened every week.
Everywhere.
People don't always listen. So, and when you don't listen, the consequences can be detrimental. Like you can screw up your life. If you get that DUI, you can get kicked out of the army. You can get a dishonorable discharge to where you can't work a federal job or in some case, I think a state job and well in certain cases too. So it's like you could be 18 years old, do something, it can affect you for the rest of your life. So not listening to people is definitely a skill that you need to develop. And when you are listening to people, have discernment in who you listen to.
Every Friday though, every Friday somebody get pregnant, bro. Just
I
saying.
think so. If you look at all of the militaries,
Oh my
and
goodness.
you look at all of the kids that's in the military, I think I may be wrong, but I think it's a big enough population with all the services, even if we include the National Guard and Reserve, that it's probably happening.
That's what's up, man. Especially after deployment. Especially after deployment.
Especially after deployments. Yes. Or during the deployment.
It'd be field problems. I know. Hey, I got some partners that got babies from field problems.
Yeah. Be gone for 30 days, come back. Oh, by they've gone. Yeah, go ahead,
Mhm.
Chris.
I have nothing. I enjoy listening to your war stories.
Hmm.
I enjoy
Bro,
this.
like every Friday, like Coach and Vic will tell you, every Friday we had formation, and the boss said, "Look, don't go out here and do these things." Every single Friday. Ask anybody who's been
Yeah.
in the military.
Look, like
They'll tell
anybody,
you.
like in Korea at this one place called Camp Casey, they got a fountain when you come through the gate, and it's a lot of first term soldiers over there, and they like
Don't be late.
they decide from 18 to 21 years old, first time out of the house, got money. They tell them don't underage drink in the Ville and don't play in the fountain. They go down to the Ville, had too many Long Island iced teas,
Be home by curfew.
too many Asian women, and then coming through the gate and then trying to swim through the fountain in the cold. Seen her do it on a Christmas Eve. Can't make it up. We
Look,
have
you can be
courtesy
off post
patrol.
after 2, but you can be off post after 1. Just stay
Look,
off.
see, look. My man Randall, Reload Slim, said Vicky was nuts. Camp Casey was wild.
Look, I met my wife in Korea.
Right.
She is
Look.
not Korean. She was in the military. We both were stationed out there.
Yeah.
So,
And y'all
Antoine, you want go ahead, Coach.
I say y'all bringing back memories. Y'all better cut it out. Soju bowls and everything in the chats now.
Bro.
Soju, man.
Oh man, yeah,
Look,
that's
here it is
soju.
right
Hey,
there.
they got a place out here. They got Korean barbecue and soju and all of that stuff. Yeah. Oh, then he was at Camp Casey too. That's what's
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
We
that's
about to go
right.
down the whole. We got to do another military show, man. But I'm gonna bump off this one and we can go to that one. Did you want to hit anything about this, or did you already go on this? You already did. Okay. Well, let's jump on to the next one, man. Hey, shout out to the chat again. I appreciate y'all involved tonight. A lot of good talking points and everything like that. So I really appreciate it on all the platforms. Um, excuse me. Hold on, where my things at? Oh, there we go. All right, so the another one, number 3, number of the different skills that men should develop. The number 3 is understand what's actually important in your life. Um, I didn't learn that until I was probably in my late 30s, probably early 40s. I thought that, having every shoe was important at some point, having the best car, you know what I mean? Not necessarily the car, but just material things in general. I thought a lot of these things were important. I thought that getting what I wanted right now was very important. You know what I mean? And those things were not as important once I got older and started really understanding the value of money or that tool or whatever it is you want, just life in general and understanding my time. So, excuse me. So I think, as men grow and develop, understanding in life, um, and thinking about what's actually important is very important with to your overall development. Deciding who you're going to give your energy to, who you're going to give your space to, who you're going to choose to marry, like all of these things, deciding whether or not you want to be married or not. You know what I mean? So understanding exactly what in your life and who in your life is actually important is very um is very important. A lot of times I heard people say one of the biggest decisions you're going to make in your life is the woman who you decide to marry. So, um, if that's something you want to do, you better choose wisely and you better understand if that's something that's actually important in your life. Maybe marriage is not for you. So, that's my 2 cents when it comes down to understanding what's actually important in your life. What do you guys think?
I think what's important in life, and these coming up if you want to achieve your goals, is understanding that time waits on no one. You can't get it back at all. So you have to, you know, do things wisely, make the right decisions, look over your shoulder, follow up on your. But you understand that everything takes time, and don't waste it. Don't waste it because you ain't getting it back, right? So really figure out what it is you want to do, set your mind to it, and go. And it's going to take time to get there, so don't waste it. I think that's very important. I think too many people today do that whole "I'm finding myself. I need to search who I am," and well, I mean, come on, man, you're freaking in your 30s, bro. Like, really? Like, you gotta pay the bills with something. You gotta have something to give me than that, because you should have been doing that thing as you come up. Now, if you're in a situation you didn't have mentors, I get it. You know what I mean? You run the game, I get it. But then at a point, you gotta say, okay, I gotta stop being an idiot, right? And you got to really buckle down, strap up, and go, what am I going to do with myself? I think that's important to figure that out if you want to be successful. That's what I think. Very important.
I also believe that you must define what success is to you. What success is to you is not the same as what success is to the next man. I see a lot of people out here going broke trying to stunt and keep up with everybody.
Yeah.
I am not in that I am not in that type of competition. For
Is it
real.
because it's not important?
It is not important to me. It really is not. And to be real, those same people that are trying to keep up with the Joneses, trying to stunt and be popular, are asking me for tips on how to get their body right. You understand what I'm saying? To me, man, what is important to you will differ. But I'm sorry, but it cannot be materialistic. It cannot be, because material things come and go.
So
It has
hold
to be
on right
something bigger
there.
than that.
So material things. So I've also heard that sometimes chasing material things initially can bring about a certain amount of financial success because I want the Lamborghini or the Porsche or the the I don't know 10 series BMW or whatever like that. Because I want that, I'm willing to do whatever it is that I need to do, and it's going to drive me to get that car one day. You know what I mean? So what do you say to something like that when people say things like that?
I would say the skill means more than obtaining the object. If you want something, you have to build a skill to get it. Antoine's a painter, Vic is a writer, Coach is a coach, you're a teacher. I'm dabbling in a bunch of different things. Like I know people that have those types of things, but they would instantly say, I would give all of this up if it meant that what I am doing was helping somebody. You understand what I'm saying? Just because I have it and it's good to look at, that does not mean that it defines me. I just busted my ass to get it. You understand what I'm saying? There's a difference between setting a goal to get something and finding out what's really important. At least it is to me.
Yeah.
And Chris is right. And listen, it all boils down to what kind of lifestyle you want. I don't want struggle love. I never did. I don't want to struggle love. I don't want that. I never wanted that in my life since I was a kid. My father always said, you always try to just find, because I don't want struggle love. I want to go on vacation. I just want to write a check and go. Just go. I want to get married. I just say, here, let's pay for it. Go. I don't want that life. And I don't want to bring somebody into my life that we have to do it like that. In the beginning, it's fine. But when I set my goals, this is the lifestyle. I don't think it's about material possessions, right? The car, the house, you can lose all that stuff. But the lifestyle is what I'm talking about. Now, if you're good with a small house and a white picket fence and keeping and talking to your neighbors and cutting their lawn, that's great. But some of us aspire to do better. I rather drive to the ghetto than live in the ghetto. If I want to see something, I'd rather drive to it. But I know where I'm going back. I'd rather be able to help somebody and not feel it than to see when I can help them. I'd rather lend you money knowing I might not get it back, but it cost me that much to get rid of you. I like to be in that position of me, right? Now, if somebody told me, and I was asked this question, and it's so funny, they said, Antoine, would you rather have kids right now in your life or not live the way you're living? I said, I don't want kids. No. Because if I can't enjoy them, I don't want them. Because I'm not doing that. And I'm not teaching them that. That's all I'm saying. So it all depends on what lifestyle you want in life. That's all.
Yeah, I get that. I think, it's important for, I think the earlier you figure out what's important in your life, the better it is. Um, I
Yeah.
think unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. I think sometimes some of us get it later on in life. You know what I mean? Some of us get it early. I know kids, I've met high school students who already know exactly what they want to do. I've met elementary students who already know what they want to do. You know what I mean? At the same time, I'm not saying that it stunted my growth, but I think the 20 years in the military where I grew up, I didn't know what I wanted to do. A lot of who I was and my identity was tied to getting the next rank. It was tied to being Sergeant Martin. That's what a lot of everything was. So that was what I was focused on. So when you're just focused on that and you have a career and then you get out and you're, a lot of dudes get out at 37, 38 years old. I was 41 when I got out. Now it's a whole new lifestyle. Now it's like what I'm doing. So when I'm out at 41, in a sense, not everybody, but for me, it was like starting all over again. It was like starting life at 18 or 19. You know what I mean? Developing this skill. Yeah, I got some leadership skills, you know what I mean? But it's a lot of other skills that I didn't develop in those 20 years because I was in the military. And for whatever reason, I just didn't know, or I didn't apply myself, or I just didn't do. So I think understanding, what's important is very, very key to any man's success because it's going to determine where you put your money at. It's going to determine where you put your time, and it's going to determine a whole lot of the decisions that you choose to make in your life.
Man's supposed to have a plan, right? It's not just a cliche phrase. It's a lot to unpack. I wrote down a few different words in the comments. A healthy prioritization of relationships, moral principles, aligning your effort with your purpose, going where you're invited instead of where you're indicted, uh, determining what winning looks like, not being too hard on yourself, developing relationships that reflect your personal accountability, developing relationships that reflect your desired personal accountability. You know, um, all of these things go towards recognizing that you don't have to have all of the answers, that you have room for improvement. And going back to the, like the shut up and listen piece, what we talked about earlier, you have to be coachable. You have to be somewhat attractive for mentorship too. Because if you come with too many of your old ways, you're not gonna, arrange your plan as effectively as you could. So understanding what's important in life is about active listening and a lot of other components that we already discussed too. So it's a pretty good, word to just spin off of, to just capture, always watch your surroundings and recognize wisdom when it's talking to you, because correction is love.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Um, I want to go back to what Chris said in the beginning. Chris made a statement about, defining what success is. Um, and I like the fact that he said that, and here's why. Because I listened to you guys talk just now, and it sounds like you defined sex. You define success. My bad, man. Calm down. You define success incrementally throughout the course of time. And the only reason you define success incrementally throughout the course of time is because your values change, your priorities change. Your priorities tend to reflect your values. So as you grow in awareness, as you become more consciously aware of what you want, not necessarily from an extrinsic standpoint to impress these people over here and to impress this person or to impress this female, when you realize that none of that stuff really matters, and then your goal became to like add value to others, even if they can't even add value back to you, like to put yourself in a position to where you can do good not just for your family and friends, but for the people you didn't know, to add value to the community as well as the culture overall, then what you find is success becomes something more far reached. And you realize that ultimately what's important to you is the fact that you shouldn't focus on what's important to you. You should focus on what's important to others. And once you get to that point, then you realize, like, man, all of that stuff I did back then was pointless and meaningless and was a huge waste of time. I got more years behind me than I got in front of me. God willing, if I get to equal that, you know what I'm saying? Probably get to see my great 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 grandson. But at the end of the day, when you look at understanding what's important is going to be based on a number of different things. Did they come from a single parent home? Were they raised in the ghetto? Were they raised in a culture to where they were affluent and they did not want or need for anything? Did they get teachings that reflected raw, authentic value, teaching them how to be authentic and honest all at the same time? Did they get to the point to where somebody within the home taught them the value of relationships instead of leaving the home and fumbling their way through relationships? All of these things matter because it defines what is important to a person. So when you understand that, you realize that, and I'm gonna go back to what you said, Uncle Junior. You said I talk to my sons, but they may not be listening. Trust me, I understand that. You and I, we neck and neck on that. Because I can talk to my son till I'm blue in the face, but then one day I had to take a step back and realize what I know based upon what I understand about life now isn't what's important to him. What's important to him is the same thing that was important to me when I was his age. I wanted to look good. I wanted to smell good. I want to drive good. I want to get, what's happening. I want to get all that. And that's what those young cats want to get to. So you got to start being able to speak on their level and try to expedite that growth pattern instead of getting them to leapfrog that growth pattern.
Man, that was a gem right there. Hey, shout out to the chat again. I appreciate everything. Appreciate seeing everything in the chat. Not getting all of them up there, but I'm getting some of them. And with that being said, Kavanaugh just posted something about financial freedom means more than material possession. And with that being said, that brings us to what number are we on now? Number four out of nine. So number four out of five, number four out of nine is achieve financial maturity. So one of the skills is financial maturity. So with that being said, um I'm gonna let someone else start this and let me know what you guys think about this because Kavanaugh already just said something about it as well.
Financial discipline, not being immature with your money. Um,
Understanding money.
yeah, that too. Yeah, financial literacy,
Yeah.
and being open to consume new information, being financially creative. I mean, there's many ways to try to create some economic autonomy. So you can live your best life too. So
Yeah.
I think financial maturity amounts to like the financial freedom piece that Kavanaugh was talking about. Um, you know, money is not absolute, but is absolutely a tool that can help make your life easier. So the faster you understand it, the better experience in life that you're gonna have, because it ain't going away. It's always part of the larger piece, back all the way to the prioritization of everything too. It's a foundational requirement.
Exactly. You need to understand that you're gonna always need a roof over your head, right? And it's what type of roof you want, but you're always gonna need one, no matter what you think. Everything ain't about money. Yeah, actually, it is, because if you don't have it, you can't exactly live the life or a good life, or you can end up wherever you want to end up. But too many people I find today, like I'm not even close to where I want to be, so it always keeps me pushing forward the next drawing, because I'm only remembered by my last drawing, right? I ain't remembered by my first. I'm known by my first. So you got to keep on. I don't believe in becoming complacent and not striving and stuck at 42K. And no, the economy goes up, you got to go up with it. And I think understanding financial maturity, understanding what money means. I'm not saying you're driving and material possessions and you're conceited and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being able to do what you want to do. Being that part of you is set. Now you just got to figure out the life you want to lead with it, right? You're taking care of the people around you that you love if you want to do that. That's the kind of maturity I think it's more important. Not the type of buying a car, Porsche, house. That's not what I'm talking about.
This is what I was talking about when I was saying that I know a lot of people that are going broke trying to stunt.
Yeah.
This is what I am talking about. Like, those goofy little three-wheel motorcycle car type things. I
Oh
live in
yeah.
this I live in the city where it's cold half the year. Why would I spend $30,000 on something that I can only drive for half the year? Like, that's goofy, but everybody want one. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I was talking about by going broke trying to stunt. Like, that's just goofy to me. It is not an asset. It is something that sits in your garage for 6 months. Like, no. You understand what I'm saying? I would rather take that 30K and put it towards something, or give it to somebody that can actually do something. You understand what I'm saying? Or put it
Yeah.
towards something that I want to do. You understand what I'm saying? But that's what I mean by going broke trying to stunt. And that's why I understand the whole financial maturity aspect of it. Plus, I used to do credit repair. So I kind of know how that type of thing flows. But the thing is, I'm sorry, I was about to go on another tangent. The floor is
That was good.
yours.
That was good. That was good.
But since you paused,
Yeah.
go ahead, coach. Go ahead, coach.
No, you about to say something?
No, I'll wait till you get done.
um, so discipline, maturity, all these are relationship terms. And so the true concern is the relationship that you have with money. You have to understand that if you get paid and the first thing that comes to your mind is paying bills, you have a toxic relationship with money. That's a known. Fact. I'm not stepping on nobody's toes. That's not my intent. I just want to raise awareness. If the first thing you do when you get paid, you have and you think is to think about bills, you have a toxic relationship with money. The idea is that the first thing you should do when you get paid is divert 10% at a minimum to go out and work for you. Money is a resource. You're a resource manager. So that money has to go work for you. If you're not devoting a part of your income to working for you so it can bring some of its friends back to you, then at the end of the day, we got an issue. And here's the other part. Stop investing in things that doesn't have an outlet. I see too many times where we will invest our money in a thing that doesn't have an outlet. Pay attention. The ocean is the ocean for a reason. Everything that is a body of water on land feeds into the ocean. So they have their big pools, but they have inlets and outlets. It's a reason why currency flows. And if money is a stopgap with you, then you have what we call clogged arteries. So when it comes down to money and all this other great stuff, and I'll touch on the credit thing as well, when it comes down to money and all this other great stuff, we got to change the way we think about it. We got to change our relationship. At one point in time, I was that guy, like credit score, credit score, credit score. And I got up to an 850 credit score. And then I was like, for what? You know what I'm saying? Just so I can go out there and say, hey, give me that. And don't get me wrong, it worked for me then because it got to the point I would go to the dealership and tell them what I want. And then they would, do cheetah flips to get it. But then it was like, why do that? Why leverage somebody else's money when I can create it myself and then leverage my own money for far cheaper than the money that they're going to give me anyway? So I
Absolutely.
think somebody put it in the Kavanaugh put it in there. We need to invest in life insurance, right? Index universal life insurance. It is an insurance policy that you pay into, and then in essence, that insurance policy you can borrow from to buy houses, to buy cars, things of that nature. And these are the same things that the bank invests in. So they take your money that you put in there and store it for a rainy day, which is a fallacy anyway, right? Store it for a rainy day, and they take your money and invest it in insurance. So why don't you do the same thing? So when I say all this, to achieve financial maturity, maturity is a relationship term. When
Yep.
you start a thing in the beginning, you were immature with it, right? You're right, Kavanaugh, but it doesn't mean they don't need to know about it, right? When you start a thing, you were immature with it. The immaturity is the thing that makes you behave poorly with it. As you progress, you move from being immature to more mature, eventually getting to the place of maturity. But most of us, by the time we reach maturity, we're at retirement age. Why aren't we teaching this to our children at a young age? That's why there's bad relationships when it comes to money. Some people are just fortunate. I'm just going to call a spade a spade. When you take 100,000 people and take 10% from 10% of 100,000 people, well, now we're looking at 10,000. Well, 10% of that 10,000 is now down to 1,000, and then 10% of that 1,000, right now you're down to 100. That's how many millionaires you will find out of 100,000 people. And here's the truth: those 100 people, they're not having $1 million liquid money. They have $1 million in assets. They can't put their hand on $1 million at one time.
Hmm.
That's the true definition of a thing. So when you really stop and think about it, we got to develop the relationship from the community perspective about money. We should be having our own banks, lending money to our own people, not at a ridiculous rate that most black people do when they get in business. That gets under my skin. It's like you want to rob from your own people just to say you got money. That's why you never have it. Stop trying to get rich off of one person and educate people on the thing that you now understand. I'm sorry I'm sounding passionate about this, but this is something
Oh,
that's
man, this is great.
You shifting from a consumer mindset, like he just said. Like you just finding ways to efficiently remain in the cycle of the matrix that makes the machine work that you complain
right.
about.
Absolutely.
So economic freedom is really the I think any freedom that's associated with like currency, financial flexibility is the main goal.
And
The the
you're
ability to
so right,
respond
man.
to an
So right.
issue, solve it. You know what I'm saying? It's because it's a tool, it's a resource. Most people don't have the problems they think they have. If they had some money, you know what I'm saying, the situation would be different. Outside of like health, but if you're not working on your mindset, if you're not working on your relationship or
No,
connection
bro.
to
I'm
that,
sorry, Vic. This is one of the few times I got to disagree with you, bro. Money don't solve problems.
No, it don't solve problems. I just said it's a resource. They can help.
Wait a minute.
solve
We mean to go solve problems. What kind of problems are we talking?
That's why I said mindset.
It's a
Like
mindset
if the
thing.
mindset's
Right.
broken, the money is not as useful as it could be.
Right.
You know, like that's the whole point. It's like that's why like when you think about whatever it is that you're insecure about, you're gonna have financial habits that are tied to that insecurity. That's why like if you do drugs now and you get some money, you're gonna do more drugs. You know, that's just it. You're just gonna do them at a high quality, a high grade. You know, but if you don't fix your mental proximity to your impulses and your insecurities, you're gonna money's just gonna flow through you. You're just gonna become an expensive failure.
And you know, people, a lot of people, some people have the fear of money in a sense that they hang on to it, right? I had that fear too. And then I have a mentor that I really wanted to. I don't know nothing about the stock market, never did S&P, all that stuff, right? And I went to my buddy and I said, listen, bro, I really want to know what to do and how to do it because I'm scared to let it go because I don't want to lose it, right? He goes, first of all, lose that fear. Second of all, he goes, I go, how do I know what to invest in? And then he broke it down so simple. He goes, what do you think is the future? I go, well, Tesla. I think Tesla's amazing. I think Facebook, I think the communication is amazing. I think, FedEx will always be there. I think the tech will always be. And he goes, okay, there you go. So you'll invest in Tesla. You'll invest in Facebook because these are things that are going to be around, right? Now you just have to ask yourself, how much are you willing to part with? That's simple. I said, well, geez. He goes, how much you want to take a risk with? Boom. And then he goes, the rest, you're going to go into an S&P. I go, what is that? And he just basically told me. He goes, it's like the 10 or 100 companies that are the best that everybody invests in and throw it in there. And I go, but then I'm minusing from my bank. He goes, no, just look at it as another bank because that's the bank that's going to grow. Right now, you're making this much in your bank interest. That's how much you're going to make over here.
Antoine, how old were you when you were getting this lesson and talking to your mentor?
You know what? I'm going to tell you honestly. This was about, when did I tell you guys I have a mentor that's going to teach me this stuff? About a year ago, maybe 2?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's how he broke it down.
So, Paul, so with that being said, would you agree that sometimes men and all people, we get certain information at different times in our life?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yes. And that's why when I said that I use what I had in my savings. Yes, I would say that. And
Okay.
I use my savings.
Go ahead, Coach. Go ahead, Coach.
Let him loose.
I love it, man. I love it. But see, that is subjective information. And here's why I say that. Because you were fortunate to have somebody who's a mentor who understood all that other great stuff, right? I, for one, because this kind of goes back to the last question, what's important? The most important thing to me is time. I'm not going to waste my time talking to somebody about something I'm not going to do. I don't want to look at the stock market. I don't want to. No, you do it. You do it for me. I pay you. Like I don't cut my own grass.
Mhm.
I'm not going to cut my own grass because at the end of the day, to me, that's a waste of time. I can spend that time talking to people and helping them sharpen this thing right here. So I think that, and Antoine, this is not against you, bro. I'm just saying.
Great. I know it's power for me. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times that's what we do. We waste the most valuable resource chasing something that devalues us. That takes me back to the job.
But you should be understanding what you're doing when you're doing it. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe you pay somebody to do it, but you should be understanding what he's doing. So when it hits a red line and he makes that call to you and tells you, what do you want to do? You at least have some knowledge of what's going on with your money.
Yeah,
Don't
sure.
go in there and just hand it over and go, I'm paying you to do that. No, I can't do it without your permission. And if you want to go broke on my account, that's fine. But just know I'm not liable for you losing your money because you don't want to pay attention to it.
I'm with you. We talk once a month. Good enough for me. You know what I'm saying? But again, the time thing is your most valuable resource. That's why I hate the concept of jobs, because jobs will say, I am going to offer you X amount of dollars to work this job. And then you get to the point, because it might be the most money you ever made in your life, you'll be like, okay, but what you don't realize is that whoever you're doing that job for, they're charging that entity 2 times what they're paying you for. Trust me, that was mind-blowing for me when I first got into contracting. So I wanted to get on the other side of contracting to where I write the check. You see what I'm saying? And once I started doing it, I was like, whoa.
Man, that's a whole different window. When you find out like they paying you 25%, 20% of what the billet actually is, like you might like think about it like this, Antoine. Let's say what Coach talking about is this. Let's say his salary is in a certain position at 100,000, right? But they gave the company that hired him 500 grand for that slot, and then they could pay him 175 and still manage the bill it the same way, but they only pay him 100 and then take the other 400 grand away, as an option for him to even negotiate.
Right.
And then they pad a stat sheet pretty much that says what we get for, what you get paid for within the contract, and taking
Right.
that all in negotiation room.
And it's all legal. It is all
Oh,
legal.
legal.
And more, the numbers more accurately is like 100 to 140. So they will charge the entity 140 and pay you 100. They keep 40. And that 40 is actually documented line by line on what percentage goes where. And the company themselves, as far as income, they only keep like 10, 15% of your salary. That's the, again, if we want to get smart when it comes down to money, we need to look at it from an overarching perspective. They've
Right.
wanted you to look at the stock market. It's a reason for that. Why were you taught about the stock market growing up? It was over glamorized, it was over publicized, it was in movies. They have a channel that's devoted to it 24/7. Why? Because they know the way to get your attention is the idiot box that you're going to look at.
Messaging, narratives,
Yep.
psyop, marketing.
All right, I'm done.
Chris got an angry man
I'm sorry, bro.
trying
I'm
to learn
passionate
that's got
about this.
something
I
to
really
say.
am.
No, hey, I'm with you on it 100%. You know?
I agree with everything that was said, but another level of financial maturity is, I guess, kind of taking the L for going for what you want. To be honest, everything that you all said revolves around not being tied to a check every week or every 2 weeks. And a lot of people do not know how to let that go because that is a semblance of security. They know if they punch in for those 40 hours a week that they're going to get something at the end of a pay period. You consult and you're into contracting. Vic, you into real estate. Antoine, you're a painter. Garfield, you're a counselor. All of those things you can do without having to report to somebody or punch a clock. A lot of people don't want to let go of that. And that to me is a level of financial maturity that only a handful of people get to because they're not afraid to bet on themselves. You understand what I'm saying? We've been taught go to school, go to college, get a degree, get a job. That is what we were taught.
Yep.
All of you are talking about reinventing that wheel and breaking that mindset. That's a level of financial maturity that a lot of people are not willing to go for because it involves a lot of risk and there's no guarantee. I know that if I punch in for 40 hours, I'm guaranteed a check. But also know that I can make I can do 40 hours of phone calls trying to get people to counsel, or I can have 100 leads to buildings and things like that and none of them fall through, or I can be contracted to do a painting and then they can rescind that contract and then I'm stuck. You understand what I'm saying? That's the flip side of it. There's a fear that's attached to that.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? There's a fear that's attached to that. Breaking that chain is going to be difficult. It is.
It's fear and data. Most businesses fail. You know what I mean? And I think Chris made a valid point. And I don't think that anybody's up here saying that you shouldn't work a job. You know what I mean? So I think I want to say that to somebody else. I think that at least what I am hearing is that jobs are okay, but that shouldn't be where the mindset stops. You know what I
I
mean?
was
And if but at the same time, however, there are some jobs that people want to do and they love. Like if you growing up and you want to be a doctor, well, that's a job. You may not want to own your practice. You may be like what coach said, you may build yourself up to the point to where you're a doctor and now you have it in your schedule to whereas you can work your 8 hours a day or your 12 hours a day, whatever like that, 3 days a week, and you got your 4 days off. You know what I mean? So there are some perks, you know what I mean, to working the job. And like Chris said, sometimes it may be a stress relief. Maybe I'm not the type of person where I'm a go-getter. Maybe I'm the type of person where I just want to listen to what someone has to say and go and just punch my clock and make my $250,000 a year and then go back to my life. You know,
But
so
a job should help you get to your career.
I
That's
was just
the
going to
most.
say that.
A
If
job. I was working flexible jobs to help me get so I could draw more. My 2 hours of drawing every day or my 2 days off was to draw. So my job helped me get to my career. An actor that's going to be an actor, he's going to get a flexible job that he can go on auditions. You have to plan it that way. That's why I'm saying whatever you do, a job is not a career. A job is where you end up when you don't have a career. But when you have a career, that pays itself right off the bat. You're happy. You're in your career, right? So you're building towards that. But a job, that's just to help you get to your career. You
What
should
I
you
would
should not
say,
a job.
what I would say is that if anybody is watching this that is doing something that they have to do, don't look at it as I got to punch this job. Look at that job as an investor into what you plan on doing in the future.
I
Yeah.
can speak on that right there because, like, I was an instructor working on West Fort Hood as an Intel instructor. So when we were on the road training, we had classroom time, and then when I had to go back to my hotel and gather my things and get reset for the next day, because if you're working out of town, you stand in the hotel, I would write my book. So
There you go.
like I think you got to get a job that is aligned with your purpose, and if you don't have a passion, then you're gonna have a lot of inconsistency. And I think that when you develop a passion and a purpose, for it, and they have a reciprocal relationship, you start finding things that are more complementary to your passion because that becomes your exit strategy. Like you can't get out of whatever you're in right now. You become a robot when you're operating without a passion. You know what I'm saying? So, um, and that's going to be reflected in your financial maturity. Like you might be good at something that's very creative, but if you don't spend time investing back in yourself, like Coach was saying, like giving your resources, like feeding your talent and your purpose and your alignment with the proper resources. Like Antoine needed to draw, so he got to go draw, whether he's feeling it or not that day. You got to go do it. Just like your trainer told you to take your time. Recovering from an injury, you can't get it all in one day. There's like no complete recipe to go become completely self-sufficient right away. Being self-made takes time. That's part of being financially mature as well. And this is about transitioning from a consumer mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset, meaning like you have enough creativity, enough confidence to shift if something changes. Like a couple years ago, I was heavy with the Airbnb stuff. You know what I'm saying? I had 11 doors, but then now, fast forward 2 years, things have kind of changed, and I figure out what type of infrastructure I want to be involved in. Because I was the infrastructure for my business. And now I want to do this more, which is more personalized, more organic, and I can speak on experience because that's where the transferable information is. That's where you can be digested. Because a lot of people's, I guess, gap into getting into their patients is representation in the same space where they want to have action at. Do you know anybody that's over there already? And which goes back to receptive, coachable, knowing when to shut up, leading and following. Knowing when you're in the audience and when you're on the podium. That only comes from believing in yourself and then having a plan that aligns with what your purpose and your passion is. Remember, I used to say, every man needs to have a skill. You need to be good at something. This is it.
Yeah.
So I will. So I think, and this is, I'm going back to the whole concept about the job, right? So this is not a knock against anybody who has a job, because a job is seed money for what you want to do, really want to do. That's the concept. I think too many times we invest in the wrong thing, thinking that somebody can teach me how to do a thing and that thing will take me to the promised land. But at the end of the day, there's a guy named Nick Vujicic. Go look at Nick Vujicic and look, just take a look at him. And I promise you, whatever he used to do, or whatever he thought he was going to do when he was young, he never got to the point of doing that, because he has no arms and no legs. And so I think a lot of times we put too much emphasis on what you can do, and we don't put enough emphasis on this thing right here. This is the most valuable investment that you will ever make in your life. Period. Hands down. Unless we change our way of thinking, then we're going to miss the mark. Now, when it comes down to doing a thing, this is why I say I'm not going to waste my time putting energy and effort in the thing that I'm not good at. I tell people, invest your time, energy, and efforts on the thing that you're good at, so you
Yep.
can master that thing, because people pay for mastery. That's why the thing I'm not good at, I'll pay somebody else to do it, because hopefully they master it. So that's the other piece here. This first, then this. Not this first, then this. That's backwards. Bass backwards, like we used to say in the army. This first, then this. If you do this, you can do anything you want to do with this. If you do this, you've backed yourself in the corner, and now you have to change this. So now I can figure out what to do with this. That's why when I have these conversations, I'm not going to lie, I charge a pretty penny to sit down and talk with me. But this is why, because I will not let you sit and wallow in your own sorrow. I don't have time for that. And trust me, you're going to pay me too much money to do it. So I am going to get into your psyche, and I'm going to make you change the way that you think in the direction that you want to go. I'm not going to make you do what I want you to do. You're going to realize that, man, I've been underselling myself all these years. Even people who call themselves coaches, when they end up coming to me, they realize, like, I'm not really a coach. I've been pretty much telling people what to do. Yes, you have been, right? Coaches don't tell people what to do. You help them do what they're supposed to, what they have in their mind that they want to do, just to realize that they already had the answer to begin with. That's why it works. So again, we got to stop avoiding this thing, because this thing have been conditioned for linear thinking. And as long as it stays conditioned, you can be good at this all day long, but you're going to be in a linear thought pattern, and you're going to hit an obstacle. And next thing you know, you're going to go out of business, because you don't know how to get out of the way of that obstacle that's coming at you.
Yeah, man, we've been nailing down this financial stuff. And at the end of the day, the financial maturity piece is huge. There are people right now who are struggling later on as they're getting older in life, because they didn't know, or they didn't learn how to have financial maturity earlier on in life. And now that's where you'll see, I go to a lot of places, I see a lot of gray-haired people working. I see a lot of old people at Walmart and fast food. And I'm not
Retail
saying
job.
that it's their fault. I'm just saying this is what I'm seeing when I go out there. When I'm looking on the internet, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about how young people don't want to work. Good, bad, or indifferent, whether I'm right or wrong, but this is just what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing on social media. And when I go out into the community, like I said, that's what I see. I see a lot of elderly people working. And I'm not saying I don't know why they are in their situation, but what I am saying is that good, bad, or indifferent, there may not be a certain level of financial maturity that could have went into that person's life. Now there are a lot of different reasons why people end up in their situation. And I think one thing is true too, and this is just what I believe. I think that certain people are not at I think certain people are not at a certain point in their life to where they're even really thinking about these conversations. What I mean by that is this. I think there are certain people that may have been born into a certain family or something like that, to whereas they don't know any better and they've never heard anything different other than what they have been exposed to. So to tell somebody who is working, making minimum wage, um, 40 hours a week maybe, and spending all that money, it's hard to, and living paycheck to paycheck, it's hard to see or to tell them, or for them to vision putting aside $100 every single month to go towards your future, your retirement. I told my sons this. I said, you're going to start working at whatever age you're at, 18, 17, whatever. And at a certain point, you're not going to work or something like that. Or something may happen. So you got from this age to this age to build, invest. So at certain point, when you get to that next stage in life, you don't have to work and you have some money that you can pull from. If you get to a certain age and you want to retire or not work anymore and there's no money to pull from, then you can't retire and you have to continue to work. So financial maturity is something that young men or all men and anybody needs to develop. And the earlier you develop it and the earlier you get mature at finances, the better off your life can be. Because I remember when I started driving back in the early 90s, you could get gas for 88 cents a gallon. So
Yeah.
30 years later, since I've graduated high school, gas is $3 and something now. So with that being said, 30 years from now, when I'm 77, is gas going to be $9 and something? Is my, the money that I have right now, let's say I got $20,000 saved up, that $20,000 is not going to be worth $20,000 30 years from now. So you have to learn about financial management and financial maturity if you want to have a certain type of lifestyle. And at the end of the day, it comes down to what lifestyle you want. Some people may want Rolls Royces and caviar dreams and all these different things like this, but some people, and I think most people, just want to be comfortable, just want to be retired at a certain age, be able to go on a vacation or two,
Yeah.
and be able to go see their kids in college and graduate and play with their grandkids and go to Disney World once or twice. I think that's what most people want to do. But I think it takes a lot of financial maturity in order to get there. Dang. Yeah, 2 minutes left in the show.
That's great. I think that's
What y'all
great.
got about finance real quick before we hit the final thoughts? Pack wisdom. None? Anybody got none? Well, you know what? I'm gonna go around. Hit Antoine, Coach Antoine, Coach Chris, and Vic, just like that. That's what's on my screen. So it's how we do. Antoine, you don't want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay. We just adding to
So,
the
So,
huh?
so I'm going to start by saying.
Hold on. I ain't started yet, man. Let me play my
I
little
thought you were going to
intro
do it
thing.
like the way you said it. We could see each other this way.
Oh no, I'm gonna play my little thing
Yeah,
first. I'm
but
still
say
gonna
there's
put
a
up
whole
my little
intro
thing.
to this.
Yeah, man.
Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
good, Antoine. Hey, we working through it, man.
He's been here for 2 years, but he's still a new guy.
I just
Antoine
thought the
is
way
my
he said,
guy.
the way he said Antoine, I just thought he's going to leave it on the screen and then we just all go around. But okay.
Oh, man, I got you. As soon as I can find it. Here we go.
So I'm going to say this, as far as men and achieving financial success and all that go. So I think that men need to, first of all, figure out what it is you want to do in life, right? I mean, you should have a passion, find it early. I think your job should lead to your career. And if you have a job, put yourself in the best position in that job so you can have the financial freedom and as far as moving around your hours and what you need in order to do your career, to work towards your career. Because the higher you are in a position in a job, the more flexibility you can leave, take time off, you call the shots. You're in a good position to achieve your goals outside of that job. So that, for one, is thing. Another thing that's important as men, what kind of life you want to lead. That's a very important question you need to ask yourself. I'm not talking about material possessions. I'm talking about what kind of life you want. The Lamborghini, the Porsche, the car, that's just a status. I'm saying the lifestyle. Do you want to be one of those guys that's happy with small house, white picket fence, going to farmer's market, doing your little thing? That's great. Or do you want to be on a top tier level? You want to be one of those high value men, as they would say. So it all depends on where you think you want to fit in life. Secondly, don't have distractions. You can have entertainment, but don't have distractions that take you off the path of where you're going. Nothing should matter more than that. Nothing should matter. Nothing should hold you back as men. Okay? And you want to lead, there's sacrifices you have to be willing to take and willing to make. Very important. I made a big sacrifice. I moved to another country. right? Because nothing was going to stop me from my goals, and I'm still trying to thrive towards it. I'm still learning. I'm still growing, right? So these things are important. So the first thing, like I said, is establish what kind of lifestyle you want, all right? And money is not the root of all evil. The person that's holding it and what you decide to do with it, that's how you should be looking at it. It's not the root of all evil.
I am going to keep my comments short and sweet tonight. I went on a rampage a few times, so I'm just going to keep it simple. Um, when it comes down to money, you will get to that point of maturation when you stop chasing money. That's it. Secondly, stop chasing low frequency items when that equate to money. It's that simple.
You muted.
Oh, um, becoming a success. Nine key skills every man should develop. This is the part of the game where I shut up. This is the part of the game where I learn, because a lot of the things that are going to be talked about are things that I did not know coming up and that I learned at a very, very late age. None of this stuff was taught to me, and none of this stuff is taught in households on a regular basis. We are just now getting this information, and it is just now becoming cool to do. This is the part of the game where I shut up and I listen and I chime in when I have a little bit of knowledge to give. That's my final thought.
I wrote down a few words: expectation management, empathy, interpersonal skills, situational awareness, and avoid putting yourself in unhealthy competitions where you get the least return on your investment in energy. When it comes down to expectation management, um, you got to go in with the expectation of not getting rich on one play, not getting everything right the first time, because the world isn't perfect, people aren't perfect, and outcomes may vary based on execution. So, in there, empathy is very key to developing very good interpersonal skills and corresponding networks and relationships. Success is definitely a relationship driven way of life. Success is a way of life. So you got to avoid putting yourself in unhealthy competitions where you again get the least return on your investment of energy. And overall, reading the room and maintaining situational awareness so you can know when your best opportunities are in front of you or your worst opportunities are behind you. And I think that amounts to being optimistic and versus realistic. Some things are better to own and some things are better to rent. Sometimes having access is better than ownership. So knowing the difference between those two is about responsible discernment, because discernment is a very valuable skill in order to be successful and maintain success. This is about developing a system of success and not just being successful in individual one-off efforts.
Hey, gentlemen, man, I first want to thank all you guys for being here this evening. I really appreciate everything that you said. I think we did a really good job of able to getting all these talking points. So I really appreciate that. Shout out to the chat and everybody watching at home. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Thank you for hitting that like button, all of those different things. Again, we said that there were 9 of these, so we got into 4 of them tonight. So next week, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to hit the other 5 of them. So part 2 next week. In between now and next Wednesday, you can check out the empowering, actually backup, skirt. So 8:30 Central Standard Time, or actually Vic will put in there, but 8:30, 9:30, one of them times, Central Standard Time, Friday morning, code talk. So if you're driving to work, if you're at home, you ain't got nothing going on, go ahead and tune in on YouTube over there on Code Talk. And then later on that afternoon, about 24 hours later, actually about 12 hours later, jump onto the Empowering Perspective podcast on YouTube, and you can check out Coach and the crew he has over there as well. And I'm over there too. So and check out us, and Chris is over there too. And then sometimes Antoine and Vic are in the chat. So we all kind of support each other on different platforms and stuff like that. We're all collectively Wolf Pack. And with that being said, we appreciate everybody again for being here tonight. And we are out, and we will see y'all again next week.